What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Kevin Svenson here, and today we're going to be discussing some updates on the price of Bitcoin. So we have recently fallen below our previous resistance and then new support when we got that retest. Well, we failed to hold. So Bitcoin has confirmed a failed breakout. We're not able to hold, showing some weakness. Now, before we move on, I just want to remind you guys of what we stated in the last video so that we are all up to speed. So the argument is that, now that we're getting above that zone after the capitulation zone, now we're getting a breakout. So that would actually, put us in a possible disbelief rally. And that is currently where we are, in a disbelief rally. Now, this can be invalidated. Like I was saying in this Twitter post, there are no guarantees in a market. Though, of course, there's never a guarantee in the market. If we fall back below the breakout zone, then we would likely find ourselves in a denial of a downtrend. So at the moment, I'm still a little bit skeptical. I'm erring on the side of bullishness, but I'm open to really any outcome here, to be honest. And the reason for that is that we're now having news that the treasury yields are inverting. So like I was discussing in that last video, that 128-day SMA was sort of the last line of defense to hold to confirm that we are in a confirmed breakout. But as you can see right now, we are not doing that. We've had 1, 2, and now possibly in a few hours, a third daily candle close below it. We'll see how this daily closes, but I would say that it is pretty clear to say that this is a failed breakout now. And the reason I would say that is because all of our candle body closes from previous areas where traders settled up on the daily closes, like this area here, this area of closes right here back in February, the next area, this area of daily candle closes here. Traders were settling up at the end of each daily candle, right along that line, right there. And if you look right as we got above that, pretty clear, obvious market reaction up to signal that the market was interpreting the resistance as being this area here. And we have now come down below that. We're now below that breakout zone, right? This previous breakout zone. So it is a failed breakout. We're getting, lower lows on the daily time scale. In my last video, we were talking about, is this a Bitcoin disbelief rally confirmed? Or is it a fake out, right? That was the sort of the topic of the video. And as I just showed you before, I was saying, I'm keeping my mind open to either possibility because we do have risks that are sort of lined up right now to potentially hold us back from really getting a truly bullish environment. And one of those things is, of course, the S&P 500, which has seen a lower high now on, the weekly time scale. If we hop into the daily time scale, we've also seen obviously a lower high there. And, we've been talking about this. We've been talking about the instability of the stock market having a negative effect on Bitcoin for a very long time. For one, first of all, if you guys don't follow me on Twitter, definitely follow me on Twitter. I do more updates there because it's easier to put out content. I was warning about the bearish MACD cross for Bitcoin when we were sitting at 45,800 before we even dipped. The bearish signals were showing up. I was talking about bearish divergence for Ethereum on the daily, likely that we were going to see a bearish MACD cross. Bitcoin crossed down, Ethereum crossed down. This was posted on April 5th. So all of these things happened. And I was also talking about the S&P showing reversal signals down here with the RSI crossing down, right? I was saying on Twitter, I made a promise myself a few months ago that I would start to pretty much just go with the most unbiased approach possible. No more people pleasing. So here's the deal, right? And that is kind of where I am now in my career as an analyst. I'm just going to be more so, keeping my mind open to all scenarios. And because of that, we were able to foresee a potential dip. Now, I want to go back and discuss what I mean about the risks that we have right now, why we might be dumping, what's the likely reason why we're not just going to the moon, why we're seeing a little bit of uncertainty, some weakness in the market. And I want to go back to my post from March 17th of this year, where I made an analysis showing that what is Bitcoin's behavior like when we're in a volatile market, right? When the S&P 500 is seeing volatility where we're getting lower lows, higher highs, right? Higher highs, lower lows, right here, 2018, higher, lower lows, higher highs, all that stuff. So when there's a volatile market, what is Bitcoin doing? It's going down, right? When there's volatility. And right now we are seeing volatility. If we go here to the more updated chart, well, the S&P had a major correction down, seen a major rebound up, and now it's coming down again. Will it continue to come down more? I think it's probably likely that we would see continued volatility for the S&P. And the point is, what does Bitcoin do when that happens normally? Normally, Bitcoin is seeing a downtrend, uncertainty. When the S&P is bullish in an uptrend, right? S&P down here, when it's bullish, Bitcoin is moving alongside it. When the S&P is volatile, Bitcoin is usually downtrending actually, because the confidence, right, is the whole thing. It's all about confidence. If the stock market is bullish, then there's confidence to speculate on Bitcoin, right? If the stock market is not bullish and volatile, then there's less confidence to speculate, right? Because Bitcoin is momentum driven, speculation driven, and usually a volatile stock market creates downside momentum, which is what I mean when I say there are risks currently in this market. That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying just the other day on Twitter, right? There are risks to consider right now when I was talking about, the bearish MACD cross for Bitcoin as we were sitting up here before we broke down. Right? It was because the S&P was showing those reversal signals. And so a lot of people just want to know, just have the basic question, is it safe to buy? Should I sell? What should I do? Right? That's what it comes down to for everybody. And I made a post on Twitter today saying, if equities, if the stock market starts losing steam, then Bitcoin will as well, right? That's what we've seen in the past. There's evidence to suggest that that's true. And I said, I still think that being on defense is the right idea at this moment in time. And what that basically means is hodl long-term. If you're a long-term hodler, that's great, that's fine. But don't overexpose. Don't deploy unnecessary amounts of money until there is clarity on the direction. And I think that this is probably, my best piece of advice right now is like, you got conviction for Bitcoin for the long term. Great. Go ahead, hodl, but don't just start splurging on the market without really getting confirmation of direction. We're seeing failed breakouts here, weakness, falling below the 128. We're back in what I would call, the neutral zone. It's the neutral zone here. Like when we were back here, how we couldn't even get a pump going for the longest time. We're kind of just coming back to that area. It's a neutral zone, guys, right? So we might have some more sideways action for the time being until we really get some good readings from the stock market. If the S&P continues down, then we might find Bitcoin at the lower end of this range and going sideways, right? Well, maybe not really that low, but we're likely going to get some sideways action, I think, in this range. And if the stock market recovers, Bitcoin can recover. If the stock market dumps, well, Bitcoin's going to dump. And that's the thing that nobody wants to hear, but is just the way it is, right? It's just the way it is. When the stock market's volatile, Bitcoin historically is not doing so hot. So again, my main point here is that there are risks. There are risks to consider with the current market, right? With this current stage in the market. And so that brings me back to the Wall Street cheat sheet. One of the main topics of discussion on my channel recently with all three previous videos, we were talking about, are we in denial? The next one, are we in disbelief? The next one, we were in a disbelief rally. Now that failed, right? And that's what I was saying in this last video was, we're in what would be technically a disbelief rally, but it can fail because there's risks. And that we're kind of seeing that now a little bit, right? So if Bitcoin does end up really failing to hold and starting to come down, then again, it's looking more like a denial stage before capitulation. If this is just a little short-term blip and we're going to recover and the stock market's going to recover and we're going to pump up again, then we'll at that point re-enter the disbelief stage, right? And this would just be sort of a fake out up, fake out down before more upside, right? That's a possibility. The 200-day moving average is the main resistance here. If we get above the 200-day moving average, that would make me very bullish. At that point, I'd say, okay, the bearish thesis is kind of out the window at that point, but we're kind of getting further and further away from that as time goes on, the past few days, past week. So we really just got to wait and see. It's a wait and watch period. The stock market is not showing really too much. It's not really giving too much confidence to speculators at the moment. And this is kind of what we're waiting for resolution on. S&P lower highs right there. If we come up and pop that for the S&P, it's off to the races. Bull, 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 right? That's really bullish, right? Then we would probably get above the 200-day, probably. If we just keep, continuing down, I mean, it's going to be very difficult for Bitcoin to get its foot on the ground and start running. It would likely be a bearish outcome, right? So again, like I said in my last video, I'm keeping my mind open for both directions, right? I don't want to have blind conviction unless I truly believe in a direction, but we just don't have the signals. We just don't have the confirmation. Yes, long term, I'm bullish on Bitcoin, right? Like long term, next halving, to the moon, right? But until then, I'm just not so sure. I'm just not so sure exactly what's going to happen here. Yield curve inverting, prices rising, inflation, all kinds of stuff. So if we go to the 50, let's go to the 50-week SMA, which historically for Bitcoin, if you're looking at it, when we cross below it, that is our bear market continuation signal. Okay, that was 2014. Hopping over to 2018, we crossed below it, came back up, used it as resistance, bear market continuation signal, the 50-week SMA. Coming over to Bitcoin now, what do we see? Breakdown below it, comes up, rejects it. Is it a bear market continuation signal? Historically, it is. Historically. Though historically didn't help us this time around with calling the top, so I'm not sure if I should necessarily rely on it to call this breakdown or something like that. But historically, when we get below the 50-week, that is a good sign that it's bear market. And just like 2018, in 2018, if we look, again, we came below, popped up to it as resistance, then dumped, right? Below, hit as resistance, come down. What are we doing for Bitcoin right now? Below, pops up as resistance. Are we coming down? Maybe. Again, if we really, if we recover from here and break back above that 50-week, and if we pop up above the 200-day, right, that area, well, then it's bullish again. But until then, we're kind of on the lower end of things, right? We're kind of on the lower side of this market, of this range. We're on the bottom end here, closer to the bottom than we are to the top. And, we're below the 50-week again. So, again, there's risks. There's risk. And again, it comes back to this. HODL long term, that's fine, but don't overexpose yourself until there's, some kind of clarity on direction. And that's all I have for you guys today. If you like this video, if it helps you out, smash the like button and subscribe to this channel. Join Patreon if you want extra content. And if you want to support this channel, get in my VIP chat. That is all in Patreon. And I'll see you guys in the next one.